не крути! Скорость добавил. О! Вот сейчас вы. Все нормально. Потихоньку, ребят, потихоньку. Потихоньку плыви.
In the early hours of March 24th, 1993, a routine flight turned into a nightmare. Aeroflot Flight 593, en route from Moscow to Hong Kong, plunged from the sky over the remote Siberian wilderness. What led to this unimaginable tragedy? Join us as we uncover the chain of events that brought down a state-of-the-art aircraft and the devastating decisions made in the cockpit. At 4:39 p.m. local time, 63 passengers and 12 crew members board the state-of-the-art Airbus A310. Aeroflot Flight 593 is a long-haul international flight operated from Moscow to Hong Kong. The total distance is 4,441 miles and an estimated time of 10 hours. This flight is particularly significant as it is part of Aeroflot's newly established routes to the Far East, connecting Russia to major Asian hubs. The Airbus A310, a twin-engine, wide-body airliner, is equipped with advanced avionics, including a highly sophisticated autopilot system designed to assist pilots in flying and navigating the aircraft. The cockpit of the A310 is built with automation in mind, making it one of the most modern aircraft in service at this time. As the final preparations are completed, Aeroflot Flight 593 is ready to depart. The ground crew signals the all clear, and the pushback tug smoothly connects to the aircraft's nose gear. With a coordinated effort, the massive Airbus A310 begins to roll backward, gently moving away from the gate. Once clear of the terminal, the tug disengages and the pilots take over. The flight's captain is Andrei Danilov, a 40-year-old veteran pilot with over 9,000 flight hours, including 950 hours on the A310. He is accompanied by First Officer Igor Piskaryov, an experienced pilot with nearly 6,000 flight hours. Also on board is Yaroslav Kudrinsky, a 39-year-old relief pilot with 8,940 flight hours, including 907 hours on the A310. He's also taking his two children on their first international flight. With clearance from air traffic control, the aircraft is guided to the runway. As the engines spool up, the aircraft roars to life, the thrust building steadily. The plane accelerates down the runway, the powerful engines pushing it forward with tremendous force. At the designated takeoff speed, Captain Kudrinsky gently pulls back on the control column. The nose of the aircraft rises, and with a smooth, almost effortless motion, the Airbus A310 lifts off the ground. The landing gear retracts with a familiar thud, and the aircraft climbs steadily into the clear skies over Moscow. In the cockpit, the mood is relaxed. The autopilot is engaged, guiding the aircraft on its predetermined course. As the plane levels off at 33,000 feet, the flight crew prepares for the long cruise phase of the flight, where the autopilot will handle most of the workload. The first leg of the journey is smooth, with clear skies and no significant weather disturbances. Approximately 4 hours after takeoff, Captain Danilov takes his scheduled break and leaves the cockpit, and relief pilot Kudrinsky takes command as part of the routine crew rotation. Everything appears to be going according to plan, but as Flight 593 heads eastward, an unexpected sequence of events is about to unfold, leading to a tragic outcome that no one on board could have anticipated. As the plane cruises over Siberia, Captain Kudrinsky invites his children and another pilot, Vladimir Makarov, who was flying as a passenger, to the cockpit. Despite regulations, he allows his 12-year-old daughter, Yana, to sit at the controls while the autopilot remains engaged. He then selects the heading mode, which doesn't fully disengage the autopilot, but permits a slight turn to the left, giving Yana the impression that she is steering the plane. The artificial horizon begins to reflect this gradual leftward bank, an instrument vital for showing the aircraft's level relative to the horizon, especially when the ground is not visible. Kuznetsk returns the aircraft to its preset course by switching back to navigation mode, while First Officer Piskaryev radios air traffic control to report their current position. Flight 593 is now over 3,200 kilometers east of Moscow, near the middle of Siberia. After Yana, it's Eldar's turn at the controls. 16-year-old Eldar is Captain Kuznetsk's son. He tries to turn the control column, but it's stiff, and he can't make the plane turn because the autopilot is holding the aircraft on course. To help, his father switches to heading mode, allowing the plane to slightly veer to the left, giving Eldar the impression that he is steering. Afterward, the aircraft is returned to navigation mode, ending the turn and Eldar's brief illusion of flying the plane. With the aircraft back on course to Hong Kong, Eldar continues holding the wheel to the left, which has stiffened again. Eager to experience the sensation of controlling the plane, he gently turns the control column to the right. Without the crew realizing it, this action exerts enough force to override the autopilot for 30 seconds, causing the flight computer to switch the plane's ailerons to manual control while maintaining control over other systems. This critical change goes unnoticed, and the aircraft begins to bank to the right. With the autopilot still managing certain aspects of the flight, it doesn't correct the turn, and the bank angle continues to increase. As the aircraft begins to bank further to the right, the situation is becoming increasingly perilous. What you're about to hear now is the actual cockpit voice recording from that fateful moment. As the bank angle increases past 45 degrees, the Airbus A310 enters a dangerous and uncontrollable roll. As the aircraft spirals into a steep descent, Eldar is still in the captain's seat, his hands gripping the control column. The overwhelming G-forces pin him in place, making it impossible for Captain Kuznetsk to take control. First Officer Piskaryev pulls back on the control column, struggling to bring the aircraft out of its dive. The nose finally comes up, and the plane begins to climb. With reduced G-forces, Kuznetsk quickly moves back into the captain's seat, but by then, the aircraft stalls. As the engines lose power, the nose drops again, sending the plane into a corkscrew dive. The captain and first officer, working together, manage to pull the aircraft out of the dive once more, but the plane is spiraling out of control, plummeting rapidly as it loses altitude.
сейчас быть. Все нормально. Потихоньку на тебя, потихоньку. Потихоньку плыви.
At 12:57 a.m. local time, Aeroflot Flight 593 crashes into the remote, snow-covered mountains of the Kuznetsk Alatau range in Siberia. The impact is catastrophic, instantly killing all 75 people on board. The wreckage was scattered across the rugged terrain, making rescue efforts nearly impossible. In the aftermath of the crash, investigators from the Interstate Aviation Committee and Airbus begin piecing together the final moments of Flight 593. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder reveal the tragic sequence of events. The partial disengagement of the autopilot, combined with the crew's lack of awareness, leads to the uncontrolled roll and eventual crash of the aircraft. Aeroflot originally denied that children were in the cockpit, but accepted the fact when a Moscow-based magazine published a transcript on the week of the 28th of September 1994. It took 16 minutes from Kudrinsky's children first taking the pilot's seat to the aircraft crashing. Despite the pilot's desperate efforts to save the plane, investigators later concluded that if they had simply released the control column after the initial spin, aerodynamic forces would have likely stabilized the aircraft, potentially averting the disaster,